here to introduce Congressman Jim McGovern, who has served in Congress since 1997 and has represented Massachusetts' 2nd District since 2013. A Democrat, he has long pursued an agenda of bipartisan collaboration, transparency, and progressive policies. He is also the ranking member of the House Rules Committee. Representative McGovern has an excellent record in Congress, marked by a consistent, outspoken commitment to upholding global human rights from Latin America to the Middle East and beyond. And as part of his work, he is Democratic co-chair of the Tom Lantos Commission on Human Rights. Representative McGovern has historically supported diplomacy and de-escalation with Iran, from the 2015 Iran nuclear deal to current hostilities between Iran, Israel, and the broader Middle East. He has also staunchly advocated for a ceasefire, unimpeded media access in Gaza, and stood up for immigrant civil rights, including opposing the first Muslim ban. So thank you, Representative McGovern, for being a great ally to the Iranian American community. We're eager to listen to your words today and work with you in the months and years to come. Please join me in thanking and welcoming Congressman McGovern.
Well, first of all, thank you, Ryan, for the introduction, and I want to thank all my friends at NIAC for all that you do and for inviting me to say a few words this morning about what might happen under the next administration. I wish I was here earlier so I could have heard the first panel on the elections, because maybe they had some answers to how we arrived at this moment in our democracy. I'm somebody, I'll be totally honest with you, who didn't believe Donald Trump could be elected the first time, let alone return to office this second time. Clearly, I was wrong. Maybe I didn't learn some of the lessons at the first election, but I don't think I understood the depths and the breadth of the warning signs flashing throughout the country that brought about his return. So it is humbling that you're interested in my insights and thoughts about the future, and particularly how a second Trump presidency might affect each of you, our Iranian American friends, colleagues and neighbors, and U.S.-Iran relationships. Somebody asked me as I walked in here, how you doing after the election? How you sleeping? I says, I sleep like a baby. I get up every 2 hours screaming. I will be honest with you. I am disappointed, and I'm heartbroken by the election. And I've been in situations before where things didn't work out quite the way I wanted to, but what makes this one heartbreaking to me is because Donald Trump told everybody who he was. Everybody knew who he was. The bigotry, the anti-immigrant rhetoric, the anti-woman rhetoric, the militarism, the bigotry, the racism, and the vulgarity on the campaign trail. And yet he won not just the Electoral College, but he won the popular vote. And there are some lessons that Democrats have to learn from all of this. Mainly, why did so few of our people turn out to vote? Because there was a dip in the number of Democrats that actually showed up to the polls. And we're gonna have to figure all that out. But the one thing I do believe is that when all is said and done, this may have been a election decided on perception of Joe Biden, and on maybe we didn't get the message out clear enough to as many people. But I don't believe our message is inherently wrong. I do believe that we need to respect everybody in this country. I do believe that we are a nation of immigrants and we should celebrate that. I do believe that we should be seeking to end wars and to promote reconciliation all throughout the world as the best way to strengthen our economy, but also the best way to achieve world peace. But as this election demonstrated, we are a deeply polarized nation. And under such conditions, it is easy for rhetoric and policies to target, stigmatize, and dehumanize certain individuals and groups. This can range from judges upholding the law and NGOs fighting for people's rights to immigrants, Muslims, women, and the LGBTQ plus community, and racial minorities. And democracies that have significant pernicious polarization often fall into authoritarianism. And I think one of the things that we have to reckon with is that we have never come this close to moving in the direction of authoritarianism as we have at this moment. I mean, democracy was on the ballot. Democracy is still an issue that we need to deal with head on because it is under threat. I mean, I on my way over here, I was listening to the news about how President-elect Trump, wants basically the Senate to kind of bypass the normal confirmation process for some of his more controversial cabinet picks. I mean, the Senate has an obligation and a duty to go through a confirmation process and to put its stamp of approval or disapproval on these nominees. But to not even go through the process, to not even have full hearings, to not even talk about some of the issues that people are caring about, to short circuit the process or just trust me, that is a dangerous precedent. Strikingly, the U.S. is quite alone among the ranks of perniciously polarized democracies in terms of its wealth and democratic experience. There simply is no other wealthy, long-standing democracy as badly polarized as the United States right now. But what saved us the first time around is that there's always another election. And what can help lessen polarization is to strengthen democratic reforms and institutions that provide incentives for people and government to work together and to find solutions that help the common good and to help address the economic hardships people are still experiencing across the country. I think it is really, really important at this time for all of us to use our voices, to not retreat, to not pull the shade, to not shy away from topics that may be viewed as controversial. I mean, you are all one of the guardrails. We can't count on people in the administration, like in the first Trump administration, to say, hey, we have a thing called the Constitution. You can't cross this line. Trump learned his lesson that he has to appoint people that are totally loyal, not to the Constitution, but to him. And we can't really count on Congress with a Republican-controlled Senate. And there's always a chance that we can pull off an upset in the House, but it's looking like that's very possibly looking like that the Republicans will maintain control of the House. So we can't count on those guardrails. We can try to appeal to moderate Republicans to say, hey, you got to use your voice and you got to use your position to stand up, for what's right, and to stand up against what is wrong. We'll see whether that will work. But the other guardrails we have are are citizens of this country being more engaged than ever, a press that hopefully will stop sane washing all of the extremism of Donald Trump and actually start reporting the facts, and also reporting the injustices that we know will be coming in the coming months and coming years. So we have a lot to do, but the worst thing we can do is to retreat. And so, I think that again, that we don't have a situation with the incoming administration where we can actually be assured that there will be people pulling him in and making sure he doesn't go overboard. In fact, when you look at some of these people he's appointing, the person who's going to be in charge of his mass deportation policy, or Stephen Miller, I mean, these are people that are not just conservative or not just right wing, but are way, 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 way out there. Are way, way out there. But we have to. But the reality is, we have to kind of re-engage, not just at the federal level, but at the neighborhood level, at the city level, at the town level, and at the state level. We need to listen to one another, and we need to work together to find common solutions. As for national policy, my thoughts at this moment are to prepare for the worst, mobilize to oppose or obstruct it, broaden our own coalitions, and get ready to resist. It's easier to resist if you know your friends, neighbors, community, city, and state will stand up and support you. So prepare for discrimination, prepare to be stigmatized, prepare to draw upon the strength of coalitions you have invested time and thoughtfulness in building. So this is a scary moment. And I say that not to depress everybody. That's the reality. And we have to be honest with ourselves that this is not just another election where, nothing horrific will happen and we can just get through it and, on to the next election. We have to be prepared that this time around, these guys mean what they say and they will follow through. Let me touch just a minute on U.S.-Iran relations. Trump has always said that he's willing to make a deal with Iran as long as it's his deal. None of us know what that means, but if I were Iran right now, I would listen to that. I wouldn't ignore the invitation, and see whether there is a deal to be had. And if it is, no matter what it is, say it's his idea. Make him feel like he's responsible. I mean, play to his ego. He's very transactional. The more you compliment him, the more he seems to want to come your way. But if there's any chance of some sort of a, new approach, it is going to have to be something that everybody says Donald Trump came up with, and only he could ever have come up with such a brilliant idea, right? So that's the way to. It's unclear what Secretary of State, soon to be Marco Rubio, what role he will play in all of this. But my guess is that all of these people in his cabinet will soon find out that the only game in town is Donald Trump. And if you don't jump when he tells you to jump, you're out. And if there's not a deal to be had, I think what we can expect is that we will see a return of the maximum pressure policy on Iran, only more so. We will see more sanctions, especially in the financial, oil, and shipping sectors. Trump's approach to Iran is also likely to be colored by the knowledge that Iran's agents tried to assassinate him during his campaign and targeted his former top national security aides after they left office. And President Trump is far more likely to give Benjamin Netanyahu a green light without restraints to do whatever the hell he wishes in Iran. Hopefully, so long as it doesn't endanger U.S. troops in the region, but I can't guarantee that that will be part of the discussion. And I'd also like to note that the pro-Israel bipartisan coalition in Congress increased in the House and in the Senate as a result of this election. Brian Hook, who oversaw Iran policy at State Department in Trump's first term, is now in charge of the Trump transition for the department. He is widely expected to receive a top national security job in Trump's second term. During the first term, he championed the maximum pressure campaign. He's a firm believer in squeezing countries until they scream and in applying more sanctions. I think the perception is that Iran is in a position of weakness right now, and there's an opportunity to exploit that weakness. I don't believe that such gloomy predictions come as any surprise to NIAC and its membership. And I think we have to do a better job of trying to educate even some of people who have not, up to this point, been very sympathetic to any of the concerns that many of the people in this room have raised about the fact that we need to have a foreign policy that is a little bit more sophisticated than just blanket sanctions. Because at the end of the day, what blanket sanctions really do, as you all know, is they don't really hurt the people who are calling the shots in a particular country. they hurt average people. They hurt regular people. They hurt the very people that, quite frankly, we are counting on to, provide a better future in places like Iran. It's really kind of simplistic. I guess it makes members of Congress feel good, and it makes the administration feel good that you can say, I'm just cutting everything off, and everything is black and white. But as you all know, life is not black and white. Life is gray. And so we need to help try to introduce people to some of these nuances. But I want you all to remember, you do have friends and allies in Congress who will rely on your insightful information and analysis, and who are proud to have you as constituents. And we're counting on you. We need you now more than ever. A few people have asked me about a bill that's coming up before Congress today that would basically broaden the definition of what could be called a terrorist organization, and it's being used basically to deny certain nonprofits tax-exempt status. Very, very dangerous precedent. Basically, what it does is it will not become law in this Congress, but you can bet your life it's coming back in the next Congress. And what they're going to do is, if Trump doesn't like you, you're a terrorist. If Trump doesn't like the positions you're taking, then he will use this provision to deny nonprofits tax-exempt status. Again, weakening the voices of dissent in this country, weakening the voices of thoughtful new approaches to world affairs. Again, that's the kind of stuff that we have to be ready for, and we have to be ready to fight back against when they come before Congress. And we have to find new ways of getting new people involved in some of these battles. But I'll close with this. I've gotten a lot of calls. I'm sure you all have, right, since the election, and the ones that really kind of bother me the most, and I totally understand how everybody feels, are the ones where people say, you know what, I've been doing this forever, and you know what, I'm done. I'm tired. I feel hopeless. I've invested my heart and soul in this last campaign, and look what happened. And so I'm ready to pull the shade and move on. I'm here to tell you, if anybody does that, they win. If anyone does that, all the things that you're talking about here today, forget about it. There's another election in 2 years. And we have to learn some of the lessons from this past election, but we can change Congress in 2 years. And in the meantime, we have to use every ounce of influence we have to try to shape some of these policies that we, quite frankly, are not going to agree with, but try to shape them in a way where they're not as bad as they could have been, and to lay the groundwork for a new approach once we have the votes. But I used to have a history professor in college. He used to end every class saying the same thing. He'd say, "Remember, the world will not get better on its own." And none of us even knew what the hell he was talking about at the time, right? I do now, right? Nothing changes. Nothing changes for the better unless good, like-minded people come together and work to make those changes, to demand those changes. And we could all have our few days of depression, and you could go to the bar and have a few drinks. That's okay. But then we got to get back to work. Then we have to get back to work. I mean, we all love this country, and if we love it, we're going to fight for it. I'm changing my ringtone on my phone to Tom Petty's song "I Won't Back Down," but the Johnny Cash version, because that's more in line with kind of my age group. But yeah, I mean, I think what was defeated was not our ideas. What was defeated were our candidates. Our ideas are good, and we need to understand that, and we need to be prepared to move on. So I thank everybody for all that you do. Many of you I've seen in my office multiple times over the years. I'm grateful for that. And I'm the first to tell you that members of Congress don't know everything. In fact, this will come as a shock to you, but intelligence is not a prerequisite for serving in Congress. So we rely on you to educate us and to keep us on the right track. And with that, I again thank you for being here, and I wish you all the best.
Let's hear it for the congressman. Thank you, everyone.